Hi all, it's Emily Rand back with another edition of LPL Corner, and I am really happy to be joined by Jordan Corby, aka Lyric, from the LPL English broadcast, who is here on his Victory 5 victory tour. He's one of two people I know that were Victory 5 fans before they were good. First of all, just Jordan, congratulations for apparently not for knowing everything that we did not about Victory 5.
It's really disappointing now because it gets lost in the noise of like everyone else's love for PP Gone. It's like, guys, I've been here the whole time. I've been here since 2019 summer, just like cheering for Ben 4. But yeah, it feels good that predicted here on this show that they would be a playoff team in summer because they're going to be a playoff team.
Yeah. I think the big thing is that you, like, before I even invited you on, I knew you were a huge Mole fan, and that was when they were basically trying out Mole in every single position. So we're happy that Mole now has a team, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. The first thing I actually wanted to talk about at the top of the show is the new regional gauntlet, which is sort of a double elimination tournament, kind of. I wanted you to explain because a lot of people were confused on Twitter at the graphic. You said you were initially confused. I was initially confused when I looked at it. So, what are the changes to the LPL regional gauntlet?
So the top 4 teams in circuit points, not including the winner and the highest team in circuit points, since those are already qualified, will go into, a regional qualifier. The first/second highest team will play each other. The winner of that automatically goes to Worlds and automatically goes to like the final. The third and fourth play each other. The winner of that moves on, losers out. And then the loser of, the higher bracket and winner of that plays for the final seed. So it's like kind of double elim for the higher seed.
Yeah, but really what you want to do is place third or fourth in championship points, so you don't have to start at the bottom.
Exactly.
Because it's a lot easier of a route there. I don't know do you know what the schedule for it is going to be? Only because the thing that is kind of remains constant for the LPL is that their regional qualifier, in my opinion, is more grueling than any other regional qualifier. It used to be bigger and like immediately following summer finals, and often it still does follow summer finals to the point where, like, I think it was 2016 where WE played, like, including playoffs and the regional gauntlet, I want to say like 5 best of 5s or something like that, like within like a 2-week time period or something, or within less than a 2-week time period. I'm messing up the numbers, but like the route that they had to get to and eventually like did not qualify for Worlds that year was really tough. And it is really, like, the LPL qualifier is just really, really tough, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I expect it to be in early September. I don't know yet. We actually haven't gotten dates yet either, but that seems like when it always is. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see. I guess the fact that the finalist, well, the one who wins summer and the other highest point seed won't be in there will be interesting because you'd expect there would be more time off than for, teams like EDG or IG or whoever, since they already have some circuit points. But yeah, going to be interesting.
And with the weight that summer gets now, as opposed to spring, because the summer point standings stay the same, but the spring points are less than last year. So summer matters a lot more anyway, which I actually like because spring across all regions, like even before North America was like, we're not awarding any championship points to spring. Spring across all regions this past year especially was really weird. Like the LPL was the first region to come down and then the first region to come back up online. And with all the disruptions, I'm actually really happy that it's weighted so that the summer season means a lot more.
I mean, especially when you look at teams like JDG right now, where I mean, who knows if they'll even finish top 4? And it's like, well, thank God that spring doesn't like get you even closer to a Worlds qualification.
Yeah, especially since I mean, we'll talk about JDG a bit by virtue of the fact that they played WE, who we're going to talk about later. But first, let's talk about your team, Victory 5. So, Victory 5, coming into this season, I did not expect much from them. I think part of that was because I was not super aware of Samdi and PP God specifically. Like, I knew a few people were saying that PP God was pretty good, and he was, I think it was Hysterics that told me he was getting scouted by Top, if I'm not mistaken, before the season started. But then he ended up on Victory 5, and everyone was kind of like, oh, okay, maybe he's not that good after all, just because of Victory 5's history of, not winning in spring. And the fact that they came and won their first series of the entire summer split was just like, I kind of thought it was going to stop there. No offense.
I mean, yeah,
they played DMO and they
too.
played OMG.
Yeah, and it was weird too because they were like winning through like lane dominance. I remember in the first game, Sam D and PP got like solo killed. I guess Helper and Mitsuki are the worst bot lane in LPL, but still at the time it looked extremely legit. But kind of going back to initial thoughts, I thought there was no way this team wouldn't start Y4 when we came in. So I initially ranked them low too because I'm like, well, I love you Y4, I love your finger gun pose and your terrible Bard ultimates, but you're not a good player anymore. And Sam D was one of the LDL players I didn't watch, so I didn't know a lot about him. PP God I knew was good. I watched some of his VODs from Fun Plus Plays, but I don't think V5 had a lot of confidence in him either because they moved ZYF up to the main roster as well. So it seems like they were kind of preparing for all possibilities. And then when everything just kind of worked out, V5 were just kind of like, oh, cool. Like, this is what winning feels like.
Well, and it's especially weird because I know Sam D was only here for what a split before he started, and previously he was a trainee for Gen G. How do you know what their communication is like? Because
it's from my understanding, it's like not very good. At least between him and PP God. It's
I was gonna
not
say
100%.
because I assume that his Mandarin isn't exactly like great considering unless he spoke it previously, only because he's only been here a split, right? And I assume that PP God doesn't know Korean. So, and I assume that the rest of their comms are all in Mandarin. So I was wondering, like, they seem so in sync with each other for probably not talking to each other as much, which I always find like whenever bot lanes like this happen, I always find it really fascinating.
Yeah, it's really cool too because they play to like dominate lane in a sense. Like they will look for those 2v2 kills all the time, and it's like, whoa, like you two can't communicate well. There's no possible way I believe that Samdi spoke Chinese before coming to China. So it's really surprising. Even that they're even moving on just from their bot lane. Their team communication as a whole is super surprising. The fact that PP God comes from LDL and is a shot caller for a still currently second place LPL team blows my mind.
Yeah, he I mean, also like I talked about this a bit when I first touched on Victory 5 and where they were in the standings and how I was still expecting them to fall. I'm still expecting them to fall a bit, maybe not drop off as much as E-Star, but I do feel like we have a lot of these teams that end up doing really, really well at the beginning of the regular season, either due to strength of schedule or just due to the fact that people might not know how to play against them, or like there's that one IG E-Star series last split where it was like painfully obvious that IG had not like watched E-Star at all because they were not prepared for the same exact bot lane dive that E-Star always did. I feel like that.
I just want to talk about that real quick because that series still hurts me because that's the series that got Ning benched for again. I casted it. It breaks my heart.
It's just like you could have watched literally one E-Star game and would have told you that was coming. The one thing I do like about Victory 5, I still think they are a bot lane focused team, not in the same way that the E-Star were, but I do think they're very bot lane focused, and they do make a lot off of leads that Samdi and PP God are able to make in a 2v2. But how would you describe the play style of Victory 5, and how likely is it that they can continue to stay at the top of the standings?
So I actually find their play style one of the most interesting in LPL because there actually isn't really a team that plays like them. They're a very jungle bot centric team, which when you hear jungle and bot centric, maybe you could try and think of teams maybe like WE or ways FPX would play in a sense, but not really. They rely on strong bot lanes, like you said, so they play a lot of Ashe Thresh. They were the first ones that came in, played Callisto Thresh their first game, and they play for like enemy neutral buffs, so they'll invade enemy red and blue a lot around bot lane. It's actually really cool to see. They do it consistently. They always look for really creative plays. I remember there's one game against RNG where after they get Herald when New kind of inted on Wukong, they invade the blue because they know that Betty and Ming need to go top to catch the wave, and they're just waiting over the wall. Betty E's over, and then PP got Thresh hooks him, and Wei jumps over, tries to burst him out, blows all summoners. They do creative things like this, and I think it's really interesting. And I'd say the surprising part to me is how they play around the full map, in the sense that, like, if Wei's playing around bot, there are times where Mo will hover to top side to make sure Bubi's okay. And Bubi's actually been surprisingly good at pushing and roaming and hovering for the bot side of the map as well. And again, they're invading both sides of the map. They'll invade for red and blue, and it's just really cool to see.
Yeah, I think the big difference between V5 and a team like eStar, where you looked at them and they were really predictable in the way that they played, but they had such a strong focus around like, we're going to get bot advantages here and we're going to immediately transfer that to Drake. And then exactly at 8 minutes, we're going to swap, sometimes regardless of tempo, to try to get Herald. And it was a very like obvious like set game plan, and the way they got away with it is that they were just so coordinated in their skirmishing and team fighting. I see V5 as like, not that they don't make some like pretty rudimentary mistakes, but I see V5 as a team that has the potential to be more than that, because they are willing to try out certain things. I'm also, one thing I did want to say about Mole is that he looks so much more comfortable now that he's not being asked to play every single position on the map. Like, I'm just so glad that they found stability for him, because he seems like just so much more confident in his play. And I'm just glad that he has like a supporting cast now to make the most of his mechanical skill.
It's also so weird because, we just said they're focused on bot, and when they're not focused on bot, they're focused on playing for Wei. So Maul's not a focus of this team at all. He pretty much is just, hey, win lane and cover us making these plays elsewhere. He does it well. He plays pretty much everything, though. I don't want to see him on Echo anymore, because that game on against LGD breaks my heart. And yeah, I'm happy for Mole too. He's looked really good. And like I said, I said this on Twitter, that PP God even said in an interview, like, hey, Mo's the one who keeps our team morale really good whenever we lose games or anything. Mo's the one like cheering everyone up. And I will say I was pretty disappointed in him in the FPX series. His game 2 on Zoe was horrible. And then he was getting destroyed as Syndra against Rumble, which is not how that matchup goes. But, Mo gets a pass for these things happening sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think by game 3 in that series, V5 just really didn't seem to have a lot of answers for what FPX wanted to do. I do want to give Mole credit, though, for bringing out the middle sticks and being more successful on it than Doinby. And I think that has a lot more to do with how V5 play as opposed to how FPX play. But that was like such a great game 1 opener to win, like on something like a middle sticks against Doinby and FPX. I was like, that's almost kind of BM. I found it really entertaining.
I agree. It was really nice to see. It was so and this is what gives me hope for V5 too, is like, sure, their strength of schedule has been really easy, but they took a game off FPX, they took a game off LGD, and I also think one game in each of those series, their drafts were really bad, like game 3 of FPX, where their red side, they picked a spot lane which doesn't win 2v2, which me and you've already set out. This team needs to play through bot lane advantage, so that's already hard. Maul loses a winning matchup, and they counter pick top by picking Wukong into Volibear, and Bubi gets destroyed. So you're on red side, you now have 3 losing lanes against FPX's like perfect FPX comp for doing everything early game and getting all these skirmishes, and it's like, well, I guess when we see videos like the Assassin video of him not having a notebook, it's not too surprising that they lose in drafts sometimes.
It's all just in Assassin's head, you know? I'm actually going to wrap it up with that. How much do you think, because I said this when Hysterics was on at the beginning of the season, when V5, I think, were 3-0 at that point, or 4-0. Assassin is a player that I actually, like, way back was kind of just waiting to be good, right? Like, I was like, I think this guy is really good when he was on Team King. He's going to make it. And he kind of never did. How much do you think, or how much have you seen him like adding to the team, or what does he bring to the team as a coach?
I don't want to be too harsh, but I'm gonna be honest. I assume not too much, especially after seeing that interaction. It kind of like confirmed that with me of like, well, this guy's a completely new coach. Sure, he's worked under coaches before, but especially coaches in China, it's like the system is a lot more loose over there, like anyway. So he's pretty much having to figure out everything on his own. And I mean, I'd say I have a pretty jaded or like negative view of coaching in League of Legends from my time around a lot of teams, but
As a League of Legends former coach.
exactly. But hey, I also have the philosophy that if he's not being a detriment, then he's fine. So, and they're winning, they're gonna keep winning. So let's go, Assassin. You've won my heart.
Well, they have kind of a light schedule coming up too, because they have like it's basically the battle of the spring darlings versus the battle of the summer darlings. So the E-Star V5 coming up on Sunday. You're casting that one, right?
Yep.
Nice. Oh, and then RNG FPX, so that'll be really good. And then the only other opponent they have in the next 2 weeks is basically E-Star and then LNG before they face Top Esports. Where do you think they're gonna end up by the end of the split?
So as a like serious take, the most expected place for me is probably second round of playoffs, like fifth, sixth. I think other teams I expect to get first round of playoffs, whether it's like EDG or Suning, I think they could beat both of them. Even WE, I think would be okay. The highest I think would be fourth. I expect Top Esports, FPX, and I'm still gonna believe in IG to be like top 3 for sure. I realistically think Ford should belong to a team like RNG, but I'm done believing in RNG. I apologize for RNG every week, and I keep getting let down. So yeah, I expect fit 6. I'd say fourth or like first round is possible, just depending on how the bracket shapes up.
So let's transition to WE, who's another team that's pretty high up in the standings. I actually I kind of like love WE because, again, as I've said previously, I have a soft spot in my heart for teams that stick to really specific play style, even if it is exploitable. And I think WE, we were talking about this off camera, but I think WE get compared to FPX a lot because of Teacher Ma, who finally made it. He's not going to get, by the way, he is not going to get kicked out of the LPL for letting his Chinese account deteriorate. So we won't have to see an emergency Shanks substitution for Teacher Ma, which I actually think is good, regardless of like what people think of their solo queue mechanical skill. But I'll get to that. I think WE and FPX are compared because of the way that Teacher Ma and the way that Joinb play. But I also think that one really interesting thing about WE is that they play around Beishang a lot more as a primary carry, which is really well suited to the current meta right now. I think Beishang's teamfight positioning as like a damage carry is surprisingly good for a jungler. And I think this team, if there's one like kind of underrated thing that I think people aren't talking as much about with WE, it's that they really make the most of what Beishang can do as an actual damage carry on something like Graves. That is the thing that, not that FPX couldn't do that with Tion, but that's not their preferred play style. And I think that is kind of the difference between WE and FPX for me. Although I would say that, Joinb is a much more, for all the talk we have about his like very specific play style, I think he's a much more well-rounded mid laner than Teacher Ma is. I think Teacher Ma is still, like, as much as I love their play style and I love what they do with Teacher Ma, I think Teacher Ma is going to be in trouble as the season goes on if they don't find some other picks for him, because as the meta changes, I think he's going to be forced off a lot of his comfort picks.
Well, Emily, he did beat Crying in Lane as Syndra versus Azir. So, I mean, he didn't win CS, but we out traded him, so that's what matters.
He does go for trades as opposed to CS or wave management.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd agree. I think the big difference between them and FPX is how they play around Beishong. And Beishong's playing so good. I would even say Beishong's better than TN right now. Like, he's really the driving force of this team. It's really disappointing, though. There's one habit I've noticed. I don't know if it's him or the team that he doesn't like ping out the enemy jungler as much, which he might still communicate it. We don't know that, but I was going through one of their games against JDG where he had just seen Kanavi's path and that he was going to go to Krugs. And their bot lane could hard shove and get like a nice reset and back and like dodge that gank, but they don't. They keep the lane neutral and they just die. And I'm just thinking like, okay, I don't know if this is their bot lane being bad or Beishong not telling them, but yeah, I don't know. That's a small point that just bothered me from the other day. The guy's insane on Graves. I love watching him play. Another difference to me is how they play with Morgan. I think Morgan's a lot better than Khan, at least at playing for the team. I think he really does play so much like Zoom when Zoom was performing it better than now, in the sense that he is constantly moving towards mid, constantly hovering. Whenever he's on Ornn, especially, he's gonna even walk straight mid from base, see if there's a potential chance to use Call the Forge God and blow an enemy flash, and always at the objective first and things like this. I think they play around top and jungle. Well, play around top so well compared to a lot of other teams in the LPL.
They should have beaten JDG.
I agree. I mean, that game too is heartbreaking, and I just hate their game 3 draft. I will never be a fan of these protective Galio drafts. To me, they don't make sense. That Magic Shield is not enough to warrant picking a like protect the AD comp with Galio, and then Trundle Galio. It makes no sense. I'm jaded by that JDG series. WE should have won.
Do you think that so we've seen Teacher Ma be really successful on his picks, but if I'm remembering correctly, he actually, despite the fact that he's like an Aurelion Soul player and obviously super comfortable with that champion, when he's like, I guess not forced on it, but when they do ban out stuff like Galio, Karma, TF, and he's on the Aurelion Soul, he actually looks like he can do less for the team sometimes.
It's really strange because you can still see how proficient he is, because his laning phase is really good. Like, he's willing to pick it into these skill matchups like Syndra and then come out ahead with a lead, even if it's against Seagal. I don't think that matters too much, but then it hits mid game, and I think you're the one that said this. Every champion he plays is a variant of like a soul. So you would think this would be perfect, but despite the fact that he's pushing the wave, has all these opportunities to move, I don't know whether it's he can't find the plays or his team's not utilizing it, but this draft especially looks perfect. You have an Ashe in the bot lane. You can constantly create plays at level 6. His team fighting on it in playoffs looked really good, but this game he did nothing.
Yeah, it's just really weird to me that he hasn't seen as much success on that champion, because like you said, individually he looks really great. Like, he's obviously just insanely comfortable with the A-Soul. So, and yes, I was the one that said every single champion he plays is a version of Aurelion Soul. I'm going to ask you the same question. Like, how far do you think this WE roster can go as is? Because I think any sort of meta shift where they can attack Teacher Ma a bit more and they can't rely on Beishong as much of a damage carry is going to really hurt this team.
So I'm just going to preface this with how negative I've been to WE already. I remember even the end of summer where I remember when they were playing EDG with their drafts, I was saying on cast, this draft is terrible. This draft is no way of winning. Like, EDG can't lose to this. EDG lose. They play OMG in that last match to determine who's 8th place. Once again, I'm like, WE have no chance. They can't do it. They once again win. Same thing happens with E-Star. I just don't know how much I can. I think I just need to stop with logic and just accept that WE are our new gods of the LPL universe, and they are going to finish. I will give them the other fifth, 6th spot. I think them and V5 will get past the first round of playoffs, but not get any higher. I don't think they should. This team probably shouldn't even make playoffs, but they'll definitely make playoffs. They'll at least finish 7th, 8th, but I expect 5th, 6th, because for some reason no one knows how to stop them.
Yeah, I think I'm just waiting to have a meta where they really can't get around, Teacher Ma's like really
We
hyper specific champion pool.
So you're saying we go back to like true like Corky Azir every game, and
Yeah,
it can't be anything
which
else. These
which would
games
I would
are so
actually be really sad if we go back to that, to be honest.
oh
But
me too. Like I don't want that. Not for LPL, please, not here.
yeah.
They can do those patches everywhere else, but
The last team I want to talk about that's at the top of the standings and touch upon really quickly is Suning, because Suning, I this is a team that I look at and I'm kind of stumped as to how they're doing as well as they are. Um, I think that some of the mistakes they've made, like especially against we were talking about this off camera, but the DMO series where they pretty much give up all of the tempo they had to swap for Herald. I'm just like, that is not something a top like it just, I don't know why that moment sticks out in my brain as just like, why are you doing this? I I don't see, like, I'm still, I guess, just waiting for them to drop down in the standings, but they keep winning.
I'm I'm like very torn on this team because after seeing the comic they made for Munchables, I feel for
It's
them.
so cute. It's so,
It's like
that was really cute.
it's like I just want to believe in them now, but I struggle to as well. Like we're also saying that they went on this 3 series lose streak. They got crushed by JDG, IG, and even their losses to EDG were pretty decisive. They beat Rogue Warriors, which okay, that's whatever. They should have lost to DMO in my opinion in that game 3. Like sure they got the early advantage when I also don't think they should have, especially from that tempo swap. But then they lost that team fight. Demo finally started to realize, oh, hey, our comp wins 5v5s right now. Let's 5v5. And then we see Mitsuki kill that ward top, and like they all just int while Shubin is catching waves on the other side of the map. And it's like, well, Suning somehow get away with this. And then they beat LGD, which I also don't know. But this team is, to me, they struggle so much in LPL because I actually don't think they can team fight well at all. I think you don't have a primary frontliner on this team who can like fulfill that role,
Mhm.
and they also struggle so much at like coordinating engages with like melee champions. Like Sword Art will go in, and then SOFM will kind of stand back and like, this doesn't really look good. So Sword Art will get blown up, and Bane will come in for a flank, and SOFM still like, still doesn't look that good. He then gets blown up, and then Onfong's like, guys, all my people are supposed to be peeling from your dead. What do we do? Which is why they're so reliant on Asher Bard. And without Asher Bard, I don't think they should be able to win. But they obviously 2-0'd LGD without Asher Bard. So what do I know?
Yeah, I mean, I think I like the bot lane of Huanfeng and Sword Art actually. And I will like stand by Sword Art in most of his engages because I do think he's really good initiator. But the problem
Yep.
is that if the rest of your team is not following up, it really doesn't matter how well you initiate a team fight, because the more important thing is that the rest of the team is communicating and following up.
That's
So
that's the weirdest thing because obviously that was always what he was best on in Flash Rolls. I think people don't realize that. Sure, he's a known Thresh player, but his other best champion by far in his career is Alistar. Like he was an
mhm.
amazing Alistar player back in the LMS. So, but the fact that Bin just doesn't look experienced enough to know how to perform this role since he is a very solo QS player, and SOFM just isn't willing to. I don't know why. Even when he's on champions like Gragas, he'll just like kind of stand and wait for that like he's waiting for that perfect Flash E
Yeah.
cast combo instead of just going in with Sword Art and peeling for Huanfeng. But I agree. I'm really high on the spot lane, and I actually wasn't that high on it in spring. I think Sword Art wasn't playing very well, even in lane. But I think right now Sword Art's playing really good. And I mean, Huanfeng might already be one of the best AD carries in the league, despite the fact that he's so new.
I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why they've been winning some of these games, right? It's just that Huanfeng is actually just that good. And it's a really AD carry focused meta right now, in my opinion. The Sofum thing really weirds me out, or because he was previously a pretty strong initiator. Like, I don't know what happened between LNG/Snake and now. I don't know if it's just like being on a new team and not coordinating with them as well, but not having Flandra making like calls that may or may not make sense, but he's following up with anyway. I don't know, because it's really weird to see that he's this hesitant, because if I had to characterize this team, it would be that they're waiting a lot of the time for their opponents to make a really big mistake, and then they're capitalizing on it.
Oh yeah, I agree, and that's why I think when they're not on champions, especially like Ash, I think they look great with. Bard, they look great with. That's why they struggle so much. They're standing there, and even maybe if their team missteps a little bit, the enemy team, they don't have a real good way to punish it. To where when you have the Ash and Bard, it is just so easy. It's so easy to punish that mistake, get the kill, and snowball that to a game. And on anything else, I mean, God, they were winning every game where they played these like normal Aphelios comps with some team fighting mid laner in the mid lane, and I still don't think I can believe in Suning, but I'm not sure. I need to see more. They beat LGD. What do I know? LPL, who knows what could happen?
I somehow see them dropping out of playoffs. Like I think that if we have teams like, I expect FPX to get there. I already said Team WE. I guess I expect IG to get IG are like,
Just believe.
I
I just
don't know
believe.
if you saw, but someone who's probably in chat, I can't see Twitch chat because it wasn't working for me for some reason, but an LPL fan took my Twitter profile picture, which is me with like 3 meerkats in my lap in South Korea, and one of them is peeing in the background. And the caption is LPL analyst, and like the teams like in my lap as the meerkats are WE, V5, and TES, and then the one peeing in the background is IG.
I saw it. It was amazing.
Like, thank you so much for that, by the way. I still can't stop laughing every time I look at it, the IG one in the background. Yeah, IG are up there. I still think that like EDG are really frustrating because they have the talent to be there. They just sometimes look so directionless that it's actively frustrating. And I want to say that RNG will probably make their way up as well. The last team I did want to touch upon though is Top Esports. I know you haven't had a chance to watch the games from last night, but I think they're kind of the undisputed top team in the world right now. And I just wanted to ask you if you can see any team taking them out, because right now I cannot see another LPL team as they are taking out Top Esports right now.
Do you mean like take them out of like winning the LPL, or do you mean like taking a series? Because those are obviously two very different questions.
Actually win the title over them.
Oh, no way. I mean, I can see teams taking a series if we want to at least like give them that small win, but no, Top Esports are definitely winning this LPL. Even the games they lose for the mistakes they make, it's like Jackie Love can just play with that much swagger and that ballsy, because guess what? He knows if he just takes it seriously and doesn't overextend a little bit, he's not going to make those mistakes. Same can be said about any member on this roster, maybe other than Yuyanja, who is still playing better overall. It's something we were talking about before we went live as well, is that, he looks like a mid-tier support in LPL right now. And when everyone else in their role is top 2 or top 3, I actually think almost all 4 of them have good arguments for being best in their role, which is pretty surprising. I don't like having that argument. Best team is all the best players, but it definitely happens. And no one's beating Top Esports.
For some reason, my video froze. But yeah, I think so. To touch briefly on the games that happened last night, and just because I think it's kind of a microcosm of what I've really liked about this team, I love the way that 369 is playing right now. I think he is like, last year he was my rookie of the year for LPL. I think he's been really good for a really long time and kind of underrated. And he is really quick to come into team fights in a way that really support, like, that can be a really dangerous thing, right? If he's constantly TPing bot. And there's even a play where arguably he probably shouldn't have TP bot last night when they were playing against LNG. But I think because he's so quick and because the team is so quick to follow up on that and create those spaces for him as well, he's just playing like really confidently and super well. And I just wanted to give 369 a shout out because I just think he's he's only like getting better, which is really scary because he was already showing flashes of brilliance as early as last year.
Yeah, and to me, the thing about him, the two exciting things is one, the fact that he plays everything. Like he could play the shy style and play like Jason, just pull you under your turret. He can play Lucian top, which he has done this split, or he could just play Maokai or Sion and play for the team fights. I remember he had one Wukong game I casted, maybe it was OMG, where he pretty much just hard carried by himself. And he's, to me, he is no doubt the best top laner in China right now. Like it's not even close. It is also obviously partially due to like Zoom and the shy and some people not being in form, but still, just even in like isolation, he's just playing extremely well.
Yep. So no one's going to beat Top Esports. The summer title is theirs. I honestly don't like it. And like jokes aside, I don't see a team right now in LPL being able to improve to the level that Top has, especially since they look better in their own series as they go on. And they're really kind of stretching themselves in terms of early aggression, which I like.
Yeah, and for me, LPL, even if we know the outcome, even if we know the destination, it's about the journey. It's about seeing how far Victory 5 gets. That is exciting about LPL. So just because we all know top esports are going to win, it's not a reason anyone should stop watching LPL. And I'm hoping that the team who does beat them in a series, because I do expect them to drop a series before playoffs. I hope it is the Victory 5, but could be to FBX, could be to IG. They haven't played either of those teams yet either. So, and all those matches are coming up in the coming weeks. So it's going to be really exciting to see. Actually, their next match is against FPX in a week.
Yeah, that'll be really good. And then V5 at the top of week 7 on the 13th face Top Esports. So circle that in your calendars because that, at the very least, like V5 is not the kind of team that's going to roll over and go out quietly. So it'll be a really fun matchup to watch. Jordan, do you have any final words on Victory 5, how you're right about them all along, or anything LPL before we go?
Well, first of all, I need to say I was right about them all along, just, to get that out of the way. And two, I don't really have anything else to say, but I'll say because it breaks my heart. I just want Rogue Warriors to win a series. Just please, Rogue Warriors. I love watching your games. Win a series for me. Do your best. I love you. That's it.
There you go. I feel like they, like, as much as I did say this about Victory 5, because it's actually, in my opinion, like, it's super hard to go undefeated in the LPL, and it's also super hard to go winless in the LPL. I think that this Rogue Warriors team can take a series for sure.
Oh,
like,
I agree.
I definitely think they can, and they almost have.
We just need them to just pull the trigger and do it and get that 50-minute Clown Fiesta where they're killing the Nexus and not the other way around.
Well, I think they've already had at least one single game.
Well, they have 2 game wins.
Yeah. So, all right. Thank you so much for joining me and getting up early to be on the show and tell us how you're right about Victory 5. And also just thank you so much for all of your insight on the LPL English cast and all the best. Like I said, you have some really awesome games coming up. So hopefully people tune in, especially for RNG FPX, because that should be really interesting. I still think I still think RNG can be a good team.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. And in my heart, I just want to stop apologizing for RNG, but I'm not going to. They need to win.
All right. See you guys next week. Thank you so much for joining me for another edition of LPL Corner. Bye.